Free Azov-style defenders!
Free Azov-style defenders!
Free Azov-style defenders!
Free Azov-style defenders!
Russia is a terrorist state!
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 World, wake up!
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 It is indeed necessary for every single person who's still sleeping on this situation to wake up at last. It could be a rude awakening to see the Russians within your country already perpetrating another special military operation, another denazification, with world-famous neo-Nazi groups like the Wagner Group. Of course, who better to denazify than the Nazis themselves? Makes sense, doesn't it? Well, it really doesn't. But in Putin's head, and in the heads of those who follow his propaganda, somehow it does. Indeed, my friends, Prigozhin himself has said so many times, and that is why he got killed in the end, not because of the war crimes, but because of him telling the truth about the Russian terrorist regime. He said so himself, that the Wagner Group had been fighting the Ukrainians for years, and they still couldn't find these imaginary Nazis. I guess Prigozhin should have looked in the mirror. He would have had an easier time of finding the real Nazis in that situation. But my friends, we need to continue to speak this truth to everybody around the world, because people unfortunately still don't know. It hurts me personally to see our American friends fighting each other, arguing with each other in uncertainty whether or not they should be helping Ukraine, whilst Russia is already planning their next invasion, whilst Russia is passing legislation to annex American land. Because for those who don't know, Alaska used to be part of the Russian Empire long ago. And this piece of legislation is unbelievably controversial. The piece of legislation states as such that Russia has the right to take whatever lands were part of the Soviet Union or of the Russian Empire in the past. Pure insanity. And yet, some apologists, some of these peaceniks, as they like to call themselves, they claim that we should negotiate with Russia. They claim that we should ask Russia nicely, and then Russia will do what we ask them to do. Then they will behave like people, and not like genocidal maniacs. Well, my friends, we've asked, they've answered, and they betrayed their word. To continue to ask, to answer, and to take with the betrayals that they're giving us over and over and over again is to be insane. Because as you all well know, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again whilst expecting a different result. And we must not expect a different result if our action is the same. We must not continue to expect the Russians to keep their word. We have to force them to keep their word at last. It has been too long since the world understood what Russia is. During the Soviet Union, during the Cold War, the West knew what the Soviet Union was, and that's why the West opposed it. But after its collapse, there was this false hope that Russia had changed its ways, that Russia had become different, better. Just like Germany, just like Japan, who used to have the same kind of genocidal maniacs that sit in Kremlin right now, ruling them. And yet look at them now. Look at Germany, look at Japan. Pinnacles, true pinnacles of freedom, pinnacles of progress. and of prosperity. Two of the biggest economies in the world. And now look at Russia. The biggest country in the world. Perhaps the most resource-rich country in the world. And their people live like slaves, like bums, like homeless. In the country with the most resources in the world. Why is that? And why is it that instead of giving them a better quality of life, Putin decides to invade other countries in the periphery? Why is that more important? Well, my friends, it's because the Russian people have lost their word. Some of them gave it up willingly, others unwillingly. But some still oppose the Russian terrorist regime. And I think we should pay our respect for those brave Russian men and women who oppose the Russian terrorist regime. Vast majority of whom has gone to jail. Vast majority of them have either died or been prosecuted. Some of them even fight for Ukraine in this war right now as we speak. The Russian Liberation Army is one of them. They have a lovely flag that one day I hope will be the new flag of Russia. A white stripe, a blue stripe, and another white stripe. You could say that they have cleaned up the blood from the Russian flag. Now the truth of the matter is, my friends, that blood can never be cleaned up. The people who died cannot be brought back. The damage that has been done cannot be undone. But we can and will move forward. But for that, we need the cooperation, the full cooperation of the Russian people. Not as this slave entity who's going to follow Putin to the grave, but as a people who want to have a future. Because the current defeat and full collapse of the current Russian regime is in the benefit of the Russian people also. They're being used as meat, and some of them seem to like it. That's the really dangerous part. I'd like to mention something. A certain video that has been becoming more and more famous lately. It's a video of a lovely British gentleman who's been playing the piano in a tube station, I believe. And there's been a bunch of CCP individuals with Chinese flags who came to him and demanded him to stop filming them, demanded him to delete the video, demanded him to never post any images of them. They called it their image rights. To which the individual answered, the British gentleman answered, that here in Great Britain, we don't have Chinese laws, we don't have communist laws. So those rules don't apply. But those individuals, they did not want to hear it. And that, my friends, that is the same shamelessness that the Russian terrorist regime continues to use on everybody. There's a little joke among the Ukrainians in Portugal. You know, maybe my friend Rui here knows this joke. This is a good one. That a Russian woman and a Ukrainian woman go to a cafe in Portugal. And the waiter comes to them. He asks in Portuguese what they want to ask for. The Ukrainian lady, she speaks with slightly broken Portuguese, but fair enough. The man understands her. He takes notes and he goes to the Russian lady. The Russian lady speaks with plain Russian her order. The waiter looks at her funny and says, "Sorry, I don't understand, I don't speak Russian." The lady sighs and then says, with an even more broken Portuguese, what she wants to order. The waiter writes down and leaves. And the Russian lady turns to the Ukrainian lady and tells her, "I've been living here for 10 years and he still doesn't understand me." Now this, my friends, this is reality. Unfortunately, the Russian terrorist regime loves to weaponize